The year was 1882, and the town of Redemption Creek, Wyoming, had gathered for what should have been a solemn occasion. Sarah McKenna stood on the steps of the territorial courthouse, her weathered hands gripping the shoulders of her two youngest children, while 5 others huddled behind her worn skirts. At 32, her face bore the deep lines of a woman who had lived twice that long. Her husband had been dead 6 months, crushed beneath a fallen pine while trying to clear land that would never be theirs. The bank had taken everything. Now the county had decided her fate. 7 children were too many for a widow with no property, no family, and no prospects. The town council had made it clear that morning she would need to find a husband willing to take on her burden, or the children would be separated and sent to different families across the territory. Some would go to the orphan trains heading east. Sarah had begged every unmarried man in 3 counties. She had pleaded with widowers, with ranch hands, with anyone who might show mercy. They all refused. 7 mouths to feed was a death sentence on the frontier, they said. Some looked at her with pity, others with contempt. One man had offered to take her if she gave up the children. She had spit at his feet. Now, as the autumn wind cut through the gathered crowd, Judge Harmon prepared to read the order of separation. Sarah's eldest daughter, 14-year-old Emma, began to weep silently. The younger children didn't fully understand, but they pressed closer to their mother, sensing the terror in her trembling body. Then the crowd parted. A man on horseback emerged from the back of the assembly, tall and broad-shouldered, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. Nobody knew him. He had arrived in town 3 days prior, a mountain man who had come down from his ranch in the high country to sell furs and buy supplies. His name was James Thornton, and he was a legend in whispers, a man who had survived winters that killed other men, who had built a ranch with his bare hands in country, so remote that some said it touched the clouds. He was 40 years old and had never married. James dismounted and walked through the silent crowd with the deliberate pace of a man who had made up his mind. He stopped 10 feet from Sarah and removed his hat, revealing steel-gray eyes that held something unexpected: kindness. "Ma'am," he said, his voice rough from disuse but steady, "I heard about your situation. I have a ranch 30 miles north. It's hard country and the work never ends, but there's space enough for a family. I'm offering you a choice, not a charity. If you'll have me as a husband, I'll take you as my wife, and I'll take all 7 of your children as my own." The courthouse square fell into shocked silence. Sarah stared at him, unable to speak, searching his face for cruelty or deception. She found neither. "Why?" she finally whispered. James looked at the children, then back at her. "Because I know what it's like to be alone," he said simply, "and because a family shouldn't be broken for the sin of being poor." Sarah's knees nearly buckled. The judge sputtered, asking if James understood what he was promising. James never looked away from Sarah's eyes. "I understand perfectly," he said. "Do you accept?" Sarah glanced at her children, at their frightened, hopeful faces, and then back at this stranger offering salvation. Through tears, she nodded. The journey to James Thornton's ranch took 3 days by wagon, climbing higher into the Rockies until the air grew thin, and the pines stood like cathedral pillars against impossible blue skies. Sarah sat beside her new husband in silence, studying this man who had altered the course of their lives with a single decision. He spoke little, but his actions revealed his character. When the youngest children grew tired, he carried them without complaint. When supplies ran low, he gave his portions to the older boys. When Emma asked fearfully what he expected from them, he said only honesty, hard work, and kindness, nothing more. The ranch, when it finally appeared, took Sarah's breath away. It sat in a high valley surrounded by peaks still touched with snow, a sturdy log house beside a clear stream with pastures stretching toward the tree line. It was beautiful and impossibly isolated. James had built it all himself over 15 years. That first night he laid out the sleeping arrangements with careful propriety. The children would have the loft and the second bedroom. Sarah would have the main bedroom. He would sleep in the barn until she decided otherwise. This marriage was made from necessity, not love, he told her quietly. "I won't presume upon you. If affection grows between us, it will be because we both choose it. Until then, you're safe here, you and the children." Sarah had never known a man like this. The weeks that followed transformed them all. James taught the older boys how to work the land, how to handle horses, how to survive in the mountains. He showed the girls how to track game and read weather in the clouds, how to shoot straight and dress a deer. He never spoke down to them or dismissed their questions. Little Tommy, only 4 years old, followed James everywhere like a shadow, and the mountain man's patience seemed endless. He carved toys for the youngest children during long winter evenings, wooden horses, tiny wagons, a family of bears that made them squeal with delight. He sat patiently while they climbed on him like a tree, telling stories of his years in the high country. He never raised his voice, never raised his hand. When 10-year-old Michael broke a tool through carelessness, James simply showed him how to fix it and said, "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." Slowly, Sarah watched her children begin to heal. The haunted look faded from their eyes. They laughed again. They played. They called him Papa James, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence and love. And Sarah herself began to change. The constant fear that had lived in her chest since her first husband's death started to ease. She watched James sit up through the night with her sick son, pressing cool cloths to his fevered head and singing old songs in a surprisingly gentle voice. She saw him defend Emma from a visiting trader who spoke disrespectfully, his quiet words carrying such steel that the man apologized immediately and left. She witnessed him give away half their winter stores to a Shoshone, family facing starvation, then worked twice as hard to make up the difference without complaint. She noticed how he always served the children first at meals, how he mended their clothes when he thought no one was watching, how he built Emma a private corner in the loft with a curtain for modesty as she grew into womanhood. He anticipated needs before they were spoken and solved problems before they became crises. He was teaching her sons to be good men by example, showing them that strength and gentleness were not opposites but partners. Her daughters were learning that they deserved respect and kindness, that their voices mattered. For the first time in her life, Sarah understood what it meant to have a true partner. One evening, as the first snow fell, Sarah found him alone by the barn, staring at the mountains. "Why did you really do it?" she asked. "Take us in?" James was quiet for a long moment. "My parents died when I was 8, he finally said. Fever took them both within a week. I was sent to live with an uncle who worked me like a slave and beat me daily. When I was 14, I ran away to these mountains. I nearly died that first winter, but I survived. And I swore that if I ever had the chance to be the man who saved a child instead of using them, I'd take it. You gave me that chance, all 7 times over." His eyes glistened. "I built this ranch thinking I'd always be alone, that I didn't deserve more. Then I saw you on those courthouse steps and I saw myself. I saw those children's faces and I remembered being that afraid. I couldn't walk away." Sarah stepped closer, seeing this lonely, powerful man for who he truly was. "You saved me too," she whispered. "I was drowning and I didn't even know if I wanted to keep swimming. You gave me a reason. You gave us all a reason." James turned to her fully, and for the first time she saw hope in his eyes. "Maybe we saved each other," he said quietly. Sarah took his hand. "I think we did," she said. "And James, you don't have to sleep in the barn anymore. Come home." That night, James Thornton finally came home to the family he never thought he'd have. That spring, when the wildflowers covered the valley, the children witnessed their mother and James exchange true wedding vows they had written themselves. Emma played the fiddle. The boys stood proud as witnesses. The little ones scattered wildflower petals. And in a valley so remote it seemed to touch heaven, a family born from desperation became bound by love. The mountain cowboy's choice had indeed stunned the West, but it proved something more important. That family is built not by blood alone, but by the courageous choice to love when the world says it's impossible. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories from the American frontier, tales of courage, redemption, and the indomitable human spirit that built the West. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss these powerful historical narratives that remind us what truly matters: faith, family, and the choice to do right when no one is watching.